Hey everyone, Randy Harrington here. Tonight I want to do a story about a gentleman from Mississippi named Mike Bleuler. And I'm sure most everyone that's on my channel has probably heard his story because he's done probably every podcast that's out there telling his story about what happened on the power line while he was hunting in the Wildleaf River Management area. And he had something pretty traumatic happen where he had a creature in his sights while he was hunting. It caused him some issues, and he was able to see this creature scream at him. Not very many people get to see this behavior. If Mike is telling the truth and he saw what he claims to have seen, like a distortion in the face, like when it screamed at him, that there was almost a separation of skin from the face itself, almost like a howler monkey. So I'm going to show you some clips of a howler monkey, and there's some components that we might take into consideration about behaviors and the physical properties that maybe these creatures or these forest people have retained or can actually, use to their advantage. One of the components of sighting reports that involve screams or long howls, people talk about the capabilities, the size of these things. When they hear a long, prolonged scream, let's say 15 seconds long, they are in awe at how that much wind power. It must be a huge animal. It has to be a huge animal with a huge chest to be able to scream for 15 seconds or even longer. So when it comes to a howler monkey, they're certainly not a large primate. So when you watch the video, you will see that size is not the reason for the sound that they make or the duration. One component about this clip that you're going to see is that the creature, the howler monkey, is making the sound on the exhale and the inhale. And you know where we've heard that before? Scott Nelson speaks about it when it talks about the rapid fire sequence of vocalizations from the Sierra Sounds. He talks about the speed at which they are vocalizing is because they're making sounds on the exhale and the inhale. So keep that in mind. We've got a howler monkey video where you're going to see it inhaling and exhaling, making sounds on both intake and outtake of the air. So when I saw that, I was blown away, because in my catalog of things that I remember was Scott Nelson saying that about the intake and outtake of making the vocalizations. So not very many people get to see one of these forest people make their scream, but it does have some components that match the howler monkey. And even gibbons. There's gibbons whose throats really expand when they make their sounds, and these are smaller primates, so that just gives them the opportunity to have a much more powerful, robust vocalization that travels in great distances. So also there is a human aspect to a face becoming distorted, and that would be Dizzy Gillespie, the trumpet player. I'll show you a few pictures of him where his cheeks are way out to here, and really, and when he's not blowing on the trumpet or expanding his cheeks out, he looks normal. So the cheeks retract back into a normal looking face. But when it's certainly protruded out to here, it's almost ridiculous how far it goes out. So those were things that Mike Bleuler describes. The extension of the face skin when it was howling, and then it retracted back, almost a distortion. So those components, I think, are very interesting. I don't need to hear Mike's whole story. I've heard it. I've heard it before, and you can go to any podcast, look up his name, and be able to hear his story in detail. I just wanted to address this one particular part because it caught my attention, and it compares to the things that I've just explained. So, and I think that's what we're looking for. We're looking for ways that we can make it believable, and not just be fantastical stories, but something that physically relates to what we know in the natural world. So it's certainly possible. Maybe the next person that sees one scream, if they also see this same characteristic, then we can start saying it's a fact. Right now it's just one person who's seen it. Maybe someone else has seen one scream. We get a lot of copycat. When somebody says something interesting, all of a sudden you're going to get some people that will start saying they've seen it even if they haven't, and unfortunately we're going to have to deal with stuff like that. So, but let's just take this information for what it says to us, compare it to what we know in the natural world, and enjoy it for what it is. I believe him. Unfortunately, he and I couldn't get our schedules together for me to do a full interview where he would just lay out his whole story. So maybe we can do that in the future, but I did just want to talk about this one part and see if you too think that it's comparable to a howler monkey. And but let me know, comments, subscribe, like, please, all those things. Share, especially share. I'm looking to expand, the things that I want to talk about, and I hope you enjoy the more instead of just story time, just more cerebral, intellectual, and trying to decipher behaviors and come to a better understanding that way. I know I enjoy it, so hopefully you do too. So we're going to start here with Mike telling the particular part of the story that describes the face distortion. So here it goes.
And yeah, so I put my gun down, and I basically, committed suicide just about. I stood up and put my arms out to him. I said, "What do you want?" I said it loud there. "What do you want?" When I did that, everything changed. Everything changed. This thing screamed again. And I hope that you or anybody that's ever gets face to face with me, I hope you never have to see that. At least the way he did it. It was like a draw up from the gut. And when he turned it loose, his eyes, his nose, and his mouth distorted, and it protruded to the front about, I always say about 10 or 12 inches. It was long. And when it hit me, it was like out in the desert, out in Iraq when a bomb goes off. Okay, it might be a mile away, and you're okay, but you can still feel the heat off of it. That's what it felt like. It felt like it was jerking me so bad. It felt like I was holding on to a jackhammer. It was rattling me that bad, and you can feel the heat off of it. And then when he was done, all this distortion, all this nasty ugliness just went back to normal. He goes back down to all fours and runs across the power line. And now every 15, he's talking at this point. He's talking. I can't do the way he does. It's like the Tasmanian devil. It's kind of like the, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then the scream. Like every 15 seconds would be the scream.
Now that, folks, was intense. Can you imagine that sound coming from a small primate called the howler monkey? So can you imagine? And we've heard howler monkeys and we've seen them. So as scary as that sounds, it's from a creature that we know of. Can you imagine having that sound come from something that we had never seen before, and how frightening it would be, and scary and traumatic? And my goodness, that was really incredible. But I hope you noticed the air going in and out while it was making the sound. You could see its gut breathing in and out, just exactly the same way that Scott Nelson talked about the rapid fire vocalizations. And the reason that they can speed vocals is because of the sounds going in and out. There you have it. You can see it in action. It's amazing. And now a few shots for reference to Dizzy Gillespie, the trumpet player with the gargantuan cheeks. So there you have it. Even with Dizzy Gillespie, our relative delicate human faces has the ability to distort and expand itself into those ridiculous positions and distortions. It just depends on what you ask of ourselves and the training. So everything that we learn about these crazy forest people, especially if we can compare it to other natural wonders that we already know about, then they won't be such a far grasp to understand who and what they are.